to talk about today is adversity. And the reason why this conversation was top of mind, because I will admit, over the last 3-4 days, really over the last week, I've not been like, and I know it's going to sound crazy, right? Because I'm always talking about the business, always encouraging other individuals, doing joint three ways, doing joint presentations, trainings, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll admit, like, January has been a real up and down month for me, right? I had some real good, phenomenal personal successes, good business successes, but I've also had some really lows, right? And I was thinking about a video that I watched several days ago where it talked about a guy who was complaining about his shoes all the time and complaining about how his shoes didn't fit, weren't new. You've probably heard this parable before, right? And then he stopped complaining when he was walking down the street one day and saw someone sitting on the stoop who had no feet. And I've been thinking a lot about that parable, right? And part of the reason why it really hit me is I talked to 4 associates in the last 24 hours, and I'll let them tell their story. I'm not going to tell their story without their permission or if they don't want to volunteer. But just in the last 24, 48 hours, while I was feeling some kind of way about the business, they shared with me how they had like multiple deaths in the family. Some of them like close, like parents of theirs. And I had another individual share a situation that transpired at the workplace. It was very, very, very unsavory. Let's just put it that way. And then I had another individual share with me about how their business just went belly up. And it's a person that doesn't really plug into our calls often, but we connect from time to time. And they were sharing with me about how literally after 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears pouring themselves into their business, they had to file bankruptcy and sell everything off. And I'll tell you, my problems felt real small when I started hearing these stories. I actually had to take a walk because some of it was so depressing. I had to just walk away from it. And I started thinking about adversity and the fact that over the last 6 months alone, I know quite a few of our teammates have gone through quite a bit of adversity. And it's easy to get caught up in your consternation. It's easy to get caught up in what's transpiring in our own personal lives and the things that we may have going on, and to forget that everybody gets their turn with the BS.com. And you're never really quite aware of what people are going through, because not like we walk around sharing our adversity, right? Sharing our issues, sharing the stuff that may be going wrong in our lives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We just don't do it. And I wanted to touch on it today. And look, this is like volunteer, right? I'm not going to cajole anyone to share any like personal challenges they've had. But what I do want to talk about is some of the strategies that I've observed from other individuals who've excelled. I sat down, yesterday with a lady. I think some of you saw me posted about it in the Slack, but she's the only African-American family. And it's crazy to say it, in the city of Detroit, where she owns commercial real estate downtown Detroit, 3rd generation. Manages a multi-billion-dollar portfolio, travels the world, talking about opportunities for African Americans to build in commercial real estate, become developers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when I first sat down with her, I noticed she had a limp and she just seemed a little bit weakened. And she shared with me about how one of the generations of real estate owners in her family, like all 3 of them just passed away back to back to back this past year. And as a result, she had a stroke and she was off the map for a couple months, and she's back at it again, but it took its toll on her. And I listened to her, and some of what she shared with me in terms of how she was able to overcome and get back in the seat again, get back in the driver's seat and continue to create opportunities for people in Detroit and abroad. I thought it was very useful, and I wanted to share some of it with it. And I wanted to share this with some of the associates that I spoke with over the last couple of days, but a couple of them I really don't have a personal relationship with them yet. But I hope, I'm not necessarily looking at the waiting room, but some of them actually join this now, and I hope this recording makes their way to them, because once again, I'm here to tell you, if you think adversity and challenge is going to disappear because you choose entrepreneurship, man, you're in for a rude awakening. Adversity is coming for you. Challenges is coming for you. BS.com, everyone gets their turn with it. It's just when you're an entrepreneur and when you're doing entrepreneurship right, you can brush it off your shoulders and keep it moving, right? But these are some of the things she shared with me, and I wanted to share it with the group because we're not done, right? Over the course of the next 3 months, there are going to be people who experience all kinds of hardships and challenges, and it's easy to get thrown off your square. It's easy to lose sight of the things that really matter most to you. And so this is the conversation I actually had with her. Her name is Miss Sharon Madison. She's actually going to be one of our guest speakers for Biz Connect. So I'm looking forward to that and having her come out. All I'm going to say is, woe is you if you don't want to pay $10 to sit down in front of a billionaire to teach you how to build $1 billion commercial, accumulate that much in the way of assets in commercial real estate. But that's a conversation for another time. So in any respect, one of the conversations we had was that when her family members were passing away and when she had her stroke, this stat was brought to her attention. Right? And she reminded me, because I know this as well, that the average person has about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day, and that 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. Now, look, we've all been there, right? You call up someone, you chat with them, you ask them how your day's going, and they say what? They start complaining about all the woe and the terrible things that are happening. That is the state of mind people are having. And I have some ideas about how to overcome this, but I'm curious to know, because I don't want to just be about me tonight, but I do have a couple strategies and tactics that Ms. Madison shared with me and that I use to overcome this. But I'm curious from the team members, right? Put it in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna ask you to look at the chat. Oh, I very rarely ever look at the chat, but I'm gonna look at it right now. Now I want my future husband to retire me too. Oh, I love it. Affirmations. I love it. Yes. That is a very effective strategy to overcome the negativity, right? Making sure that you're looking at affirmations on a daily basis, right? Where you speak life, you speak excitement, you speak success into your life, right? What are some of the other strategies that, as a group or as individuals, you've used to offset the negative thoughts that we're having? Anyone have anything else?
Just being intentional about the company you keep.
I love it.
That you are surrounding yourself with people who are naturally positive. I mean, everybody has their moments, but people who are generally positive and always, have a bright outlook on life and don't sweat the small stuff.
I love it.
The more that you're around those people, it's naturally going to rub off on you.
I love it. I see vision board from Mr. Bryant. Moments of gratitude. Yep, gratitude journal, highly effective. Find a Deion Sanders motivational reel. I agree. What you feed your mindset. I like it. I'm gonna ask for a deeper dive. What do you mean when you say what you feed your mindset? One of those things can be a Deion Sanders motivational reel, but what else? What else can you feed yourself? What can you put in?
Just making sure that you are, and I apologize, I'm not on camera tonight. Making sure that you're feeding yourself the right things, like not listening to negative things like the news and things of that nature, but making sure that you're feeding your mindset positive things like the motivational reels and stuff. But also I like to listen to Eric Thompson, ET. He's good. Also when you're reading books and stuff, that's actually helping to elevate your mindset and helping you to think differently. So it's just about watching what you feed it. What you
I
put
love
in
it.
out.
I love it. So I've heard it said that you are the combination of the 7 people that you spend the most time around, right? You're a combination of the 7 people. In other words, if you hang around 6 cursing cousins, you can rest assured you're probably gonna become 7. If you hang around people who are not like positive, excited, enthusiastic, achieve, can do people, man, woe is you, right? Feed your will and starve your fears. I love it. Getting around people who are more successful than you. I can tell you, I purposely do that. That's part of the reason why I met with them. I was like, I need to get around some more billionaires. I know there are billionaires here in Detroit. I was like, I'm going to make it my business this year to develop a relationship with at least 10 of them. 10 billionaires. That's my goal. I want them on speed dial. I want to be able to take them out to lunch. I want to serve them. I want to help them continue to build their business so I can earn my place at the table with them. Right. And the bottom line is we can all do it. We can all do it. There's a guy who shall remain nameless. Did I get his permission? He happens to own commercial real estate downtown Detroit. I saw him at a coffee shop. I could have sat on my hands and just watched him walk by. Instead, I rolled up on him and said, look, man, I know who you are. I know what buildings you own down here. And look, I am interested in supporting construction and business development. And I'm not calling, I don't want to sell you anything. I promise you, I have not a thing to sell you. That's not what I'm here for. But you are very successful. You've been winning for a long time. And I would like the opportunity just simply to get your feedback. Lunch is on me. It could be Detroit Athletic Club. You choose the place. It does not matter. I will buy you lunch. I'll bring Subway to your office. If I can have 30 minutes of your time to ask questions, if I could have 30 minutes of your time to find out what's most important to you, I'd be super excited. And he looked at me. He was like, you bold as all get out. He's like, I can't believe you did this. You don't, he's basically like, who are you? And then he paused for a moment. He handed me his business card. And I thought he was playing. He wrote a phone number on the back of it. It happened to be a cell phone. We can all do that, right? Getting around people. And of course, the stuff you read, the music you listen to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how you offset this. I think this is real powerful because what it tells you is you have to be intentional. Like, you just can't wake up and think you're going to have a positive attitude. Your brain is hotwired to make you think, focus on, and concentrate on negative things all day, every day. It's part of what allowed us to survive, right? We didn't have negative minds. We'd have went over the hill centuries ago, and then the lion or the tiger would have ate us. We'd have ate that red berry, and it would have killed us. We would have been like the dodo birds, right? We'd have fallen a cliff. That's why human beings survive, right? Because there's a part of our brain that all it does is focus on fear and anxiety. Good for survival, bad for thriving and building successful businesses, right? Another conversation point that I had with her, we're both fans of Alex Hormozi, right? I'm a huge fan of Alex Hormozi. The reason why I'm a huge, I wouldn't say fan, but I would say I admire what he accomplished. Because he built a business in the heart of the pandemic. And while everybody said wellness and fitness couldn't work, you can't get people to come together. It's against the law. It's this, that's this, that's this, that, is this, that. He did it anyway. And not only did he build a multi-million-dollar health and wellness business revolving around fitness and people coming together and working out, supplements, and et cetera, he grew it to 1 billion strong during the pandemic. When everyone else I knew was closing their gyms down, people were calling him crazy as all get out. You done lost your mind. You're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. It's impossible. He said, man, I'm going to do it anyway. Right? And one of the things that we talked about yesterday was the ideal of, look, you don't become confident by shouting your affirmations. Yeah, you remove the negativity, but you don't become confident with affirmations. What you do is you build up a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. You outwork yourself out, right? For me, that's always been instructional. I was a shy, nerdy guy in middle school and elementary, if you can't tell. Then I discovered weights. But anyway, I was a shy, nerdy guy. in elementary and middle school before I discovered the weight room and decided to punish people for messing with me. But anyway, and how I overcame that shyness was doing stuff. So I participated in the school spelling bee to get over being shy, talking to people, right? Because you get in front of 1,000+ people and you win a spelling bee, that will get you over your shyness real quick, right? I would purposely know, right? You already know where this is going. I would purposely put myself in situations with people who are more advanced than me. So I made sure I was always the dumbest person in the room. That's how I got all of my shyness for asking questions. That's how I got over that. There was a gentleman, if those of you know who Dan Pena is, old, cantankerous Caucasian guy, if you go online, his entire training is him cursing and yelling at people. That's all he does. But in between the cursing and yelling, man, he dropped some incredible information. So guess what I did? I went to a training that was being given in my office as an investment advisor. This guy had been in the business for longer than, there have been sand on earth. Old cantankerous guy, cursing, yelling all the time. I have to get up at 7 a.m. in the morning, get there at 6:45, or you get cursed off of that. And I would just sit and listen to him. And he taught me, that was one of the ways in which I learned how to become one of the most effective investment advisors in Michigan, was just sitting underneath him. And he and I got to a point we get to arguing back and forth. Yeah, old as sand. He was old as time. Interesting story about him, though. He bailed out him and one of his partners actually bailed out Detroit's Thanksgiving parade on more than one occasion. People don't know this, but the Thanksgiving parade in Detroit has been bankrupt, right? It was not going to go down the street. And he and his partner actually put up the money, who God knows how much it costs to do that. And they made sure the Thanksgiving parade went down the street, right? And the lessons I learned from that was just do, right? Some of you are scared to do exposures. Start with invitations. Okay, so you're uncomfortable. You feel some kind of way about standing 10 toes down and getting someone to commit to looking at something. We'll just start with the invitations. Some of you may be afraid to make a run for executive director. Some of you may be afraid to make a run for senior director. And I don't like using the word afraid, but maybe you're just intimidated. Say that instead, right? Well, instead, commit to Performance Club. Because you commit to Performance Club, and you do that consistently, you teach 3 other people to get in Performance Club, that means you're a senior director. You teach those 3 to teach 3 people, now you're executive director. So indirectly, you can go ED without even pursuing ED. It's kind of interesting, right? How that works, right? But I love this. And one of the things she said is, she was afraid of how she looked. She didn't look the way she normally looked. She had a limp and her voice wasn't as strong. And, she felt like, so much time had gone by and turned advances in technology, particularly in commercial real estate, et cetera, et cetera. She was a little bit anxious to get back in front of people again. She started out by doing little small speaking engagements. And then she started out, just making phone calls again and chatting with people because she had been ghosted. Some people thought she had passed away, right? So I'm gonna stop talking for a moment. Anyone who's been there before who needs to build their confidence, I've given you some ideals, some of the things I do to build confidence, and other people I know have done to build confidence. Anyone have any other ideas? Like, what are some things you can do if you're not confident giving a presentation, if you're not confident doing an exposure, if you're not confident conducting a 3-way, what do you think some of the things you could do to become more confident in your business?
Well, aside from providing the 2-minute videos from Prospect, which are always very effective. And they also have, longer presentations in Prospect too, but I mean, there's literally so many, there's every single day of the week, there's a virtual event that you can plug your prospects into, whether it's for small business, whether it's for the opportunity group, whatever. Go to the LS, the Legal Show calendar. I can put it in the chat, but there's like every day of the week, there's something going on that you can plug your prospects into. So you literally do not have to present a thing. Just invite them to that and let the experts, I should say, do the presentation.
I love it. I'll give one more thing that I did years ago. So you all, not all of you, but some of you heard the story about how I was able to have a $10,000 day here with PPLSI. And that's what really locked me in. I was like, oh, I can earn adult money with this, right? I can do that part-time. So some of you heard that I went, and I was not supposed to give that presentation that day in front of all those employees. Yeah, Ms. Harris, that works too. Many respects, that works too. Let me pull the chat back up so I can pay attention to what's going on in there. But anyway, I had to give the presentation, and I knew I was going to suck. Yes, presenting in smaller groups. I love it, Mr. Fisher. Practice makes excellent, right? Not perfect, but excellent. But I'll tell you what I did. So the person was supposed to go give the presentation downtown with this organization, informed me they couldn't show up. And they informed me like the morning of. And the presentation took place at 1 o'clock. So what did I do? Knowing I had to give this presentation, and I knew I would suck, right? So I had never given a group presentation. I didn't even understand the membership backwards and forwards yet. But what I did is I went to a coffee shop around the corner 2 hours early. And at the time, there was a 15-minute presentation to kind of cover how to do a group presentation. And I'm telling you, I sat down and I watched that presentation over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like I kept watching. I was laser focused on nothing else. I had my pen and pad. I took notes on everything that was being said during the presentation. And then I basically went in, and to the best of my memory, that's the presentation I gave, which resulted in 30 out of 100 people enrolling right there. And then I think another 10, 15 a couple days later, right? I love it. I think Mr. Carl Lowe put it in there, practice, right, makes better. In my humble opinion, if you want to get good at the presentation, listen to people who are the best at it. Do it the way they do it. And when you get good at the way they do it, then wear it like a coat, like turn around like a suit jacket, and then go out and make the necessary changes, right? Make the alterations to the jacket or the suit coat or the dress, right? Till it starts to feel more comfortable on you. But if you're new to this and you're like, man, I'm afraid to give a presentation, I can tell you the most effective way to give a presentation is to listen to those videos. Or when you hear a live presentation, take notes on the presentation as if you have to give it. And I promise you, you'll get better at it if you do that. All right, so moving on to the next slide. The other conversation we had is this. The truth is you don't break a habit, you replace one with a good one, right? And she was telling me about how when she originally, second generation, inherited some of this property from her father and mother and grandparents and great-grandparents, that she was in a habit of not asking for help. She said that was her biggest mistake. So she needed funding for her business because she didn't understand finance. She understood finance of buying a regular residential property, but she did not understand financing a huge commercial building along with all the other commercial interests she had. And she had a terrible habit of not asking for help. She had to be the do-it-yourself. She had to do it everything herself, research everything herself. And she oftentimes would walk in the rooms with people who were more experienced than her, and she would bump her head and get knocked upside the head. And as a result, for a long time, she could not grow her real estate empire. She could not take on, she was in a millionaire club. She wanted to get in a billionaire club. She said one of the habits that she had to break was that in order to be successful. And now she says she does not care what your background is. She does not care what it is. If you specialize in something, if you accomplish something that she hasn't accomplished, she doesn't care whether you earn $20,000 a year or if you're earning $1 billion a year. But if you are exceptional at something, she will sit down and she will ask you about it. I thought that was really fascinating because oftentimes we know people judge a book by its cover, right? I thought that was phenomenal, right? I think that one kind of speaks for itself. What habits do you have that you want to get rid of? And understand that you really don't get rid of habits. You can only replace them, right? What are those habits for you? The other thing she shared with me that I thought was very interesting, because I've heard this a million times. One of my business mentors, Mr. Patrick Shaw, used to share this with me all the time. And he used to say, Juwan, the most important story you'll ever hear in life is the story you tell yourself about yourself. Right? Some of us have can't do narratives going through our minds. Some of us speak ill into our life. And keep in mind, you're the first person to hear your words. You're the first person to hear them because you're thinking them first, right? Some of us have bad narratives. What's your soundtrack, right? And like Alex Hemersey says, I mean, the soundtrack alone, affirmation alone, can't create the success, right? You got to do things to become confident at it, right? You got to execute and let things snowball. But I think it's an interesting question, right? What are you doing on a daily basis to change the narrative? Like what you say to yourself on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a yearly basis or every minute or every second. Right? I know some of the tactics I use, but I'm curious to know for those who've taken the time to really understand this, what are some of the things that you're doing when you know you're having negative thoughts, when you know you are a negative laser seeking missile? What are some of the strategies you're using to say, you know what, bump that. I'm going to get after it. I'm going to win today. Like, what are some of the things that you're doing? I'm curious.
Well, I make it a habit to journal every morning, which really helps kind of just empty my brain and gives me just a new sense of energy and ready to go-ness in the morning.
I love it. I love it. Who else? What are you doing to change the narrative? Whatever story you have going on in your head about yourself, the environment around you, what are you doing? I had 3 people approach me today while I was downtown and try to convince me that Detroit sucks. They each took 5. I was like, what is going on? They each took about 3-5 minutes of my time to tell me how difficult and hard it was to get anything done and to build anything worthwhile in Detroit. And I just kind of, I shooed them away, but they still were able to get it in on me for a couple of moments. Literally sat at my table while I was sipping coffee and proceeded to tell me why they think Detroit sucks. So you got to be kidding me. This only happens to me sometimes, I think. One of the things I did, and you all, some of you who know me, you already know where I go with this. If somebody says something negative to me or something that, I think has a bad spirit to it, I'm the type of person, I will either set aside time on my calendar or I'll remove myself from the space and I'll just pull out my affirmations and I'll read them, right? So I have my affirmations written down on 1, 2, 3, 4, and front and back, 5 pieces of paper. And I keep this paper in my pointing book. I keep it in my journal. This is a screensaver in my computer. It was too big. I tried to screensaver it a couple times. My phone didn't work out. But it's a screensaver in my iPad. I have a copy that's sitting in the bathroom when I brush my teeth. And I also have a little small journal I keep in my back pocket. And so whenever I encounter something that I'm not in agreement with, in terms of my future and what it is I'm looking to accomplish is what I pull out. And I literally read this stuff to myself multiple times a day to stay focused when BS.com makes its way into my life. Right? I hear Miss Kane, I read Miss Kane, remind myself of God's words say about me and repeat them to myself. I love it. Miss Harris says she prays and speaks affirmations, life over her life. I keep plugging, snowflakes turn to snowballs. Yeah, Miss Harris, that's my favorite. I keep inviting people to review our services. I love it. Who else? What strategies do you use?
There's also a lot of YouTube videos out there of just affirmations and like calming music that kind of helps you just get into that positive spirit. So I definitely recommend like just searching on YouTube for inspirational videos and things like that, messages.
I agree.
I do the same thing for my son and for myself.
There are two podcasts that I'll share that I listen to on a regular basis. One is called Side Hustle Nation by Nick Loper. And look, eat the fruit and spit out seed. I don't agree with everything that comes out of his mouth. What he's very good at is finding entrepreneurs who just start up businesses out of nowhere, like you wouldn't expect. I mean, like straight up, on their knuckles, right? Broke as a joke, can't get funding, no help, no family support. And he finds these entrepreneurs and he lets them tell their stories about how they built successful businesses. I love that podcast. There's another one called Diary of a CEO. I can't remember the guy's name, but he does the same thing. Now, for him, it varies across the board, right? He has people who are wealthy on there, but he has people who, once again, started with nothing, bootstrapped, right? No mommy, no daddy, no support, built successful businesses. And then when you hear these crazy stories that these entrepreneurs tell about the abuse they took in households or the fact that they were homeless and on the street, I mean, you name it, right? They tell these stories. I use those stories. So if I ever hear myself thinking I can't do something, I listen to their stories and I'm like, I'll be damned. No, if they can do it, I can too. Right? There's a book out there. I forgot the author's first name, Cynthia Kersey, and it's called Unstoppable. If you want to read a book that will force you to change your narrative, where you will take all excuses off the board, read that book by Cynthia Kersey called Unstoppable. That book is crazy. It's full of all kinds of stories of entrepreneurs who they weren't supposed to win. Let's just put it that way. They were not supposed to win. And she talks about just the simple things they did to win, right? I'm a firm believer that it's not excellent people who change the world, right? Because there's very few people who are like Michael Jordan ain't born every single day. You know what I mean? The Williams sisters, they not born every single day. Michael Jackson ain't born every single day. Dan Gardner ain't born every single day. Reginald Lewis isn't born every single day. Mary McLeod Bethune or Harriet Tubman or, Ida Wells Barnett. I'm trying to remember the young lady that's terrible. Her name escapes me. She was the first African-American woman millionaire. Started with the hair products. People like that are not born every single day. Like, you can't rely on those people to change the world. People, when change happens, is usually Madam C.J. Walker. Thank you, Ms. Webb. Toussaint Overture isn't born every single day, right? Very few people have the courage of a Nat Turner, right? These type of people are not born every single day. But when you see change happen, in a big way is usually everyday people who just do excellent things. Common everyday people who just wake up and do some incredible things. Because they have, they crazy enough to believe they can do it. Right? When I was sitting down in front of Madison yesterday, she talked to me about the background of her great grandparents and her grandparents, and how, man, they were just broken on their knuckles. They didn't know what they were doing. They were getting out the mud. And we're talking about in the early 1900s and late 1800s. So the stuff they were doing, I mean, it was in some places they were still hanging you for reading. Right? They couldn't get a job. Didn't matter if you had a PhD in engineering or architecture or whatever. People were not going to hire you. It didn't matter even if you had money. They wouldn't allow you to buy buildings. And I was so fascinated about their story to have nothing going for them. No one willing to help them. No one willing to fund them. No one willing to do anything for them. And they still found a way, right? And distinguished themselves. And when you listen to the stories, it was absolutely incredible. I know, that's what I'm about to be done right now. I encourage individuals, find those stories, man. Chicken Soup for the Soul is another book. If you want to hear stories of people who are down and out, so you can believe you can achieve too, that's another one. I think that was the last slide. So Ms. Webb, I think I actually did. Yep, there it is. That was the last slide. So look, I encourage individuals, look, this is by no means exhaustive, but hopefully some of the ideals individuals shared with you, you took notes on them or you took note of them. Because like I said before, adversity is going to come for you. No one is immune to it. We all get our turn with it. And hopefully some of these strategies help you when adversity says hello to you, right? So you can stay focused on your focus. Ms. Webb, you are the best of all time. So you can stay focused on your focus and do the things you need to do to have success and continue to achieve your goals, even when the worst has happened around you. So with that being said, I'll be calling on some of you over the course of the next upcoming weeks. As like I said before, we're going to be hearing different voices on this call. I'm always excited to be with you, but you're going to see me move a little bit different in 2024, right? It's going to be less about me. It's going to be more about we serving the team. And I'm looking forward to that because I know there are other great ideals and people who are passionate about certain things, and we need to share that. So that being said, everyone have a fantastic evening.
Okay, 1 second before we get off.
Floor is yours, Ms. Webb. Go ahead.
I did post some links in the chat real quick for y'all. And these are all going to be in Slack too, and they are in Slack, but these are the links for our weekly events for convention. If you haven't registered, make sure that you want to go to convention, make sure that you register. The link for that is there. TPP also has their own breakout session, which is going to be the Sunday of, during the convention. That Sunday is all breakout sessions, and TPP has their own breakout session. So if you want to go to their breakout session, the link to register is in the chat. And finally, we started doing a group lodging Airbnb situation to save money on lodging for convention because the hotels are ridiculous. So I'm just telling you right now, like we have to think of another way to lodge. So if you're interested in group lodging, just click on the link in the chat and add your name to the list, to the list. And I've already started looking at places in OKC. So if you want to, pool our funds together for group lodging, just register via that link below. That's it. Thank you.
You're the best of all time, Ms. Webb. Thank you so very much. People be getting it twisted. They think I'm running stuff. It's like Ms. Webb is the boss. If you didn't know any better.
No. Don't paint that picture.
Oh, you don't want it? All right. Everyone have a fantastic evening and celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for